How's it going, guys? It's K Cars, and today I wanted to make a video talking about how my Jeep Cherokee XJ does driving around the city after all the things that we've done to it, like repairs and maintenance and everything else. But before we actually jump into the topic of today's video, I want to show you guys this nice little Jeep right here that I just found. I think it looks really good. I'm really not sure who owns it or anything, but I just wanted to come out here and show you guys what this thing looks like. It's been here for quite a while. It looks very good next to the XJ right here. All right, so let's go ahead and hop in and see how this thing drives around the city. Start this thing up. Starts right up with no problems whatsoever. All right, so like I said, basically in this video, I wanted to go over kind of some of those things that we've done to this Jeep so far and how it drives in the city. So let's go ahead and get on the road and start talking about it. So if you guys are new to the channel, this is my 2001 Jeep Cherokee XJ, and I have done a few videos like this where I'm just, it's just a POV driving video and me kind of going through a review of how it drives and stuff. But I figured I should probably do an updated version of that since we have done a few upgrades and repairs to this thing since then. I wanted to kind of talk about, what we've done and like the future plans, and also obviously how it drives. So to start out here, whenever I first got this Jeep, it was about 2 years ago. Like I said, it's a 2001, so about 20 years old. Right now it has 106,000 miles on it, and ever since then, I'll be honest here, we have put altogether around $13,000 into this Jeep. And if you guys want to see a breakdown of literally everything that has gone into this Jeep, I went over all those upgrades and the prices of everything in a separate video a few weeks ago, so definitely make sure to check that video out if you guys want to kind of learn more about that. So like I said, around $13,000 has gone into this Jeep, and pretty much, the biggest expense were all the rust repairs. So obviously that doesn't really help much with the drivability of this thing, but it does help with restoring it and keeping it nice for a longer amount of time. Now, some of the things that we've done to help it drive better is install an all-new suspension kit. Now, it is a lift kit, and some of you guys might be wondering, how does lifting a Jeep actually help it drive better? And just lifting a Jeep by itself doesn't really make it better, but the fact that we did replace every single suspension component. If you guys are familiar with these old Jeeps, then you probably know that the old leaf springs in the back are known for sagging a good bit. So we got every single suspension component replaced with the Rusty's 3-inch advanced lift kit. So obviously it came with all the standard things like your coil springs, shocks, and in the back we did get full leaf springs. Of course, I wanted to get those completely replaced to get rid of the stock saggy ones. And I've also heard that if you get the add a leaf kit, where you just add another leaf to the existing leaf springs, then that can kind of ride a little bit rough. So we got all the suspension components replaced, like I said. We got new control arms, upper and lower. We got brand new extended brake lines, adjustable track bar, steering stabilizer, and of course, like I mentioned, new shocks, leaf springs, and coil springs. So replacing the entire suspension components, the entire suspension system, definitely did help with drivability. It did make the ride a little bit more rough, but I'm not really complaining about that. That's kind of something that you should expect when you're getting an off-road lift kit for a Jeep. So that's one thing that we did. That was one of the first things, the first big things that we did to this Jeep, and it's been holding up just fine. It's been on this Jeep for about a year, and I have zero complaints when it comes to the lift kit. It soaks up the bumps very well. If I'm comparing this thing to the Challenger that I also drive, obviously the Challenger is going to have stiffer suspension because it is made to be a performance vehicle, handle better than the Jeep. So it does have stiffer suspension. Obviously comparing a Challenger to a Jeep isn't really a good comparison, but just kind of comparing the drivability is kind of what I'm talking about here. So as you guys saw there, it also has a very good turning radius as compared to the Challenger. This turning radius is far better. You can make tighter turns with this thing. That turn back there, I probably would have made it with the Challenger, but it would have been, I would have had to go out a lot wider to actually clear the turn. So that's definitely one advantage of having a Jeep Cherokee XJ like this, is the you know, the shorter wheelbase. It's not super short. Obviously the TJ is a little bit shorter wheelbase than the XJ, but still, I would consider the XJ to be pretty compact, and that's also what makes it a very good off-road vehicle as well. So, you know, on to the actual drivability portion here. As you guys can see, like, I'm keeping the steering wheel completely straight here. You know, I can even let it go and see what happens here. You know, it's not shaking at all. It is drifting a little bit to the left here, so that is one thing that you do have to keep in mind with these old vehicles. You know, I'm pretty sure it's like this with any old vehicle, but you do have to like constantly give it more steering input, and as you can see, there is a lot more play in the steering as well. So it's not really anything that I'm complaining about, but you know, just one of my observations that I have made while driving this thing. So really nothing bad, but you do always have to be, you know, more focused on where you're going. You also have to be more worried about wind. So on a windy day like today, if you're going to be driving at high speeds, like on a highway or on the interstate maybe, then you definitely do have to be conscious about windy conditions, because as you guys know, Jeeps are shaped like bricks, so they do have a lot of surface area to kind of be thrown around by wind. So obviously it's not ideal, but you just have to make sure that you are doing a good job at keeping the steering wheel, you know, straight, and making sure that you are giving it enough input to actually stay in your lane. Now, as you guys saw there, I just made a lane change. So this Jeep actually did come with like blind spot mirrors. I'm not sure how well you guys can see those right there, but they're basically, I don't know, would those be called like convex mirrors? I think they're kind of like rounded, so it gives you more viewing area. Now, I actually find those to be pretty useful. I don't think they actually come stock with those. I'm guessing probably the previous owner put those on, but they actually do help out quite a bit. They help clear the blind spots a lot easier. You know, obviously with just the regular mirrors here, I can't see like all the blind spots, so usually you should like look back and check your blind spots. And that's one thing that I really like about driving this Jeep, is that, you know, there really aren't any blind spots. So if I just look back, you know, basically the whole side is the window, so I can see everything that's back there and don't really have to worry. And even if I'm too lazy and I don't want to look back there to check the blind spots, then I do have those blind spot mirrors that pretty much show me, you know, everything, including the blind spots. So even if I check the mirrors and I look back, I can make sure that there's nothing in the blind spots. And now when I compare that to the Challenger, then that's when the Challenger, you know, is definitely at a disadvantage when it comes to visibility and blind spots. If you guys have ever been inside a Challenger or a Camaro or a Mustang, then you guys probably know that, you know, they do have pretty large blind spots, and you can't really, I guess, like see the blind spots just by looking at the mirrors. You physically have to look back a few times just to make sure that there's nothing there. And even if you do like physically turn your head and look back, you still might miss a car that's in your blind spot, because, you know, the blind spot is just that big that you can't actually see it. Now, one thing that I've said before is that with a Challenger, you can clear your blind spots with horsepower. And I actually like that saying, because it's true. If you are worried that there's something in your blind spot, just put your foot down, clear your blind spot, and make sure that there's nothing there. Now, obviously, that only works if there's room in front of you to actually do that. If there's a car right ahead of you, then that's not going to work. So, you know, that's one thing that I really like about this Jeep Cherokee XJ, is that there literally are not any blind spots. So the blind spot mirrors definitely help, but also just looking back like that, you guys can see that, you know, there's literally no blind spots. So I really do like that about this Jeep. You know, another thing that I will talk about is acceleration and braking and handling. Now, obviously, when it comes to those three things, those are very important for city driving, especially if you live in an area where people, you know, drive aggressively, or, you know, you just have to make quick maneuvers to avoid an accident or something like that. So this Jeep, you know, it's not made to accelerate quickly. It's not made to have good brakes or good handling around turns. But for what it is, I really can't complain. Now, if you guys have been around for a while, then you know that basically my main goal with this Jeep is to restore it and keep it nice and clean. Of course, I do take it off-road every once in a while just to enjoy it. But, you know, my main goal is to keep it restored and keep it nice. So I don't really like beat on this Jeep. I don't go like, you know, trying to get a new record for a 0 to 60 or something like that. So it's not like I accelerate very quickly with this Jeep, and sometimes you can make people mad if you drive like me, because I pretty much drive like a grandma. And by that I just mean that I don't accelerate super quickly. We also got a nice Gallardo right there, if you guys see that. Nice Lamborghini Gallardo right there. But yeah, so I really can't complain too much about the acceleration, because this Jeep, I believe, comes stock with about 190 horsepower. So really not too bad for you know, the 4.0 liter inline six. And this thing doesn't even weigh that much. I think it's like 3,400 pounds. That's also another reason why it's so good for off-roading, is because of the weight. So, you know, the acceleration, I can't really complain about that. Obviously it's not made to be able to accelerate quickly, but you know, at the same time, I will say I have been having an issue where if I'm on the interstate and if I'm going up an incline, then sometimes it'll go down to like, you know, 40 miles an hour and it just won't be able to accelerate. And the reason for that is because sometimes it just has trouble downshifting. So that only happens if I'm going up an incline, like on the interstate at a high rate of speed. So if I'm going on the interstate up an incline, if I'm going like, you know, 60 to 70 miles an hour and I start to slow down and I get all the way down to like 40 miles an hour, it just won't downshift for some reason. Now, a lot of people have pointed out that I should adjust the kickdown cable. I think that's what it's called. So that's probably something that would help solve that issue of it not wanting to downshift, you know, going up an incline at a high rate of speed. So that's definitely something that I need to look into. But as you guys see right now, like, I'm having no issues keeping up with this Tesla right in front of me. So, and as you guys see right here as well, soaking up all the bumps very well. With the Challenger, I probably would have had to go over those bumps at like 10 maybe, and I took those going 25, and you guys saw how well it actually soaked up those bumps. Now, something else that some people ask about is death wobble, and I know it's a pretty common issue with lifted Jeeps. Now, luckily, I think the Cherokees are actually less likely to have death wobble than the Wranglers. I actually have never experienced death wobble in this thing, like, ever at all. So luckily for Cherokees, like I said, I don't think it's as common to have death wobble as it is for the old Wranglers. I've even hit bumps going on the interstate at like, you know, 60 to 70 miles an hour and literally have had zero issues with death wobble at all. It soaks up all the bumps extremely well, which I'm very happy with. Even only on the stock suspension, it was very good. You know, it soaked up the bumps, but I am happier with how it performs with the upgraded suspension here. Even though it is a little bit more bouncy, I do prefer it over the, you know, old worn out stock suspension that it used to have. There are two more subjects that I wanted to go over this video, and that would be overheating and fuel economy. Now, fuel economy is something that to me does not matter for a vehicle like this. It doesn't matter for me as well if I'm driving the Challenger. Now, the reason for that is because, yes, gas is getting very expensive, especially here where I live. So it's definitely something that I have to be conscious about, but it's not like I'm gonna sell this Jeep because it has bad fuel economy, or it's not like I'm gonna not get it because of the fuel economy. I honestly did not even care about the fuel economy before I even got this Jeep, and still to this day, even though gas prices are super high, you know, I'm driving this Jeep literally just for fun, literally just to make a YouTube video. So fuel economy really does not matter to me. I know it does matter to some people, and there are a few things that you could do to improve your fuel economy, and some of those things are obviously just like, don't drive crazy, simple things like that. So yeah, I mean, I've never actually calculated the fuel economy in this thing, and I'm not really planning to, but I will say I don't really drive this thing too much. I probably drive it like, you know, once a week, once or twice a week maybe. So one tank of gas definitely lasts me a very long time, honestly, like months at a time. So it's really nothing that I'm worried about, and also nothing that I'm like concerned about at all. So fuel economy, you know, I don't really have anything else to say about that, other than if you are concerned about the fuel economy, then maybe getting like the new Wrangler that's electric. I think it's called like the 4xe or 4xe. I'm not really sure what they're calling it, but I know there is an electric Wrangler out there, obviously a lot more expensive than an old XJ. But if fuel economy is something that you're concerned about, then you know, there are upgrades that you can do to the XJ, or you could just get an electric Jeep if you're concerned about fuel economy. So as you saw there, handled that turn perfectly without any issues whatsoever. And now going back to the overheating issue that I wanted to talk about. So I have had a few times where my Jeep has overheated just a little bit. You know, it's never actually like, you know, nothing serious has ever happened, but it has gone above 210 a few times. And whenever that happened the last time, I think it was like 90 degrees outside, and it was driven for like 20 minutes maybe, and it was over 210, and then I shut the Jeep off, and then whenever I went to turn it back on after, you know, maybe 10 minutes, it kind of felt like it was going to stall out. Got a cop right there, make sure I stop completely. But yeah, so whenever that happened, I tried to start it back up, and it kind of felt like it was running very rough, kind of like sounded like it had a misfire maybe, and I was hitting the gas and literally nothing was happening. So I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but it definitely did overheat a little bit, and that was back when my electric fan was completely broken. Like, it did not spin at all whatsoever. So the first thing that I did to actually solve the overheating issue was to actually install a brand new electric fan, which I do have a tutorial on how to do that if you guys want to check it out. And then, you know, obviously with the electric fan, it did help a lot. Obviously, like, if it goes over 210, then it definitely is good to have that electric fan to actually cool it down if it does go above 210. So of course I did not have an electric fan back then, so whenever it went above 210, it had nothing else to actually cool it down. So that's the main reason why I think I was having overheating issues. And then something else that I noticed was that my coolant level was low, so that definitely also contributed to having those overheating issues. But like I said, it wasn't anything too serious. It only happened about like 2 or 3 times when it went over 210, and then the electric fan wouldn't kick on because it was, you know, broken. It just wasn't working. So like I said, whenever that happened, I went to shut it off, and then whenever I turned it back on after like 10 minutes or so, it just wouldn't run right. It was idling super rough. Whenever I hit the gas, nothing would happen. I put it in reverse, put it in drive, couldn't move at all. The gas literally wasn't responsive at all. So I put it in neutral, just let it idle, gave it some gas, trying to make the idle like steady a little bit. After I did that a few times, just putting it in reverse, putting it in drive, letting it idle in neutral, eventually it, you know, got back to normal idle and I could drive it, but I could tell it definitely was not happy because it was, you know, still overheating. So basically what I did is, as I already said, I replaced the electric fan with a brand new one. And after that, we got most of the cooling parts replaced as well. So basically everything except for the radiator. Whenever I took it to the shop, they said that they didn't really see a reason to replace the radiator. And you guys probably have all heard the saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's especially true with these old Jeeps. You know, they're really happy with the OEM stock parts that they came with. So, you know, if it wasn't due for a replacement, then I definitely didn't want to spend the extra few $100s to replace a radiator that was still good. So what they did replace was the water pump, thermostat housing, radiator hoses. They did a coolant flush. I know there's a few other things I'm forgetting. I know they also replaced the belt and one of the pulleys, I think. So those were basically the main things that we got replaced, and that helped out a whole bunch. It hasn't overheated at all. The day that I got it back from the shop, it was like 100 degrees outside, and it stayed below 210 like the entire time, even sitting in traffic at red lights and everything. And you know, obviously having the electric fan and a brand new thermostat helped a lot, and also brand new coolant helped as well. So all those things working together, now my Jeep does not overheat whatsoever, even in very hot weather. So I'm very happy with how it's been performing so far. I don't really have any issues right now. It's, you know, it's been running perfectly with no issues. And whenever I went to pick it up from the shop after getting all those cooling parts replaced, the guy actually told me that the coolant was very low, and you know, he asked me about the possibility of replacing the head gasket. I have never replaced it. I haven't gotten it replaced ever since I got this thing 2 years ago. I'm not sure if the previous owner had the head gasket replaced, but he just said that that's something that I should look out for. So yeah, I haven't really had any issues since I got it back since then. Head gasket is just something that I'm gonna have to look out for. Like I said before, these Jeeps tend to run the best with the parts that they came with from the factory. So I tried to get all genuine Mopar parts whenever I got the cooling parts replaced. So I think that definitely helped out a lot as well. So getting all the cooling parts replaced was definitely the part that, you know, helped this Jeep run well in the city and just in general. A few other things that we did was, obviously I mentioned the suspension, just helped it handle a little bit better and get rid of that saggy suspension that I used to have that it came with stock. And then something else that I did was replace all the fluids and all the filters. So obviously oil, diff fluid, trans fluid, oil filter, transmission filter, just stuff like that. And I do think that everything added up to actually make it run as good as it does today. Also replaced the spark plugs, coil packs, and then I also got this Jeep with a check engine light, and that was actually for an evap leak, I think. So I just replaced the fuel vapor tube to fix that. So that's also a little thing that I did to help out. So yeah, I mean, all those things just add up to help it drive the way it does today. And right now, you know, I literally don't have any issues with this thing. We do have a brand new upgrade right here, as you guys can see. I did post this in my community section on YouTube a few weeks ago, maybe about a month ago or so. And actually one person did guess it correctly. So I will be doing a separate video on what this actually is. Most of you guys, you know, might already know. I've been talking about this for quite a bit. But yeah, I am planning to make a separate video talking about this and also talking about what is in that box. And something interesting is that I need, you know, I'm not going to give it away right now, but I needed 2 of what is in that box. One for the driver's side, one for the passenger side. And what I have right now is the driver's side, and the passenger side is on back order for like a year, which makes no sense because it's basically the exact same part. There's only one tiny difference. I don't know why one side was readily available and in stock, and then the other side is on back order for a year. So I guess I'm gonna have to keep waiting, but yeah, planning to make a separate video on both of those things right there. Yeah guys, that's gonna do it for this video. Like I said, absolutely very happy with how my Jeep has been running. No issues whatsoever, but like I said, we have put $13,000 into making this Jeep as good as it is right now. So just keep that in mind. So if you guys have any questions or comments, definitely drop those down in the comment section below. And if you guys have any video suggestions for videos you would like to see in the future, also drop those down in the comment section below. And if you guys liked this video or found it entertaining, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.